India just got hit with a 50% tariff. Brazil's being punished over politics. Even Canada's on the list. This isn't just about trade, it's a global power play as policy. On August 7th, nearly 70 countries woke up to a new reality. The United States had just imposed one of the largest tariff regimes in modern history, with rates hitting as high as 50%. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The tariffs weren't random, they were tailored. Some targeted entire regions. Others zeroed in on specific countries. And behind each decision, a very deliberate message about oil, about war, about trust. So what exactly is Washington signaling? And how will this shape the next decade of global trade? Welcome to China Decoded. Let's break it down. On paper, this is about reciprocal tariffs. President Trump signed an executive order activating a plan first floated back in April, one that adjusts U.S. import duties based on how partner nations treat American goods. Starting August 7th, countries around the world are now facing tariffs ranging from 10% to 41%. For a few, the number goes even higher, up to 50%. India and Brazil top that list, but they're not alone. Countries like Vietnam, Taiwan, and Bangladesh are now subject to 20% tariffs. Laos and Myanmar, 40%. And for many others, including key Southeast Asian economies like Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines, the rates fall somewhere in between, 19% to 25%. And if you're thinking of rerouting goods through a third country to dodge the tax, that loophole's been closed. The US is imposing a 40% penalty on transshipped goods, plus potential additional fees. On the surface, this looks like a sweeping recalibration of trade. But once you examine the geopolitical context, a second layer starts to emerge. Let's connect the dots. Fact number 1. India is hit with the highest tariff, 50%. Why? According to the White House, it's because India continues to import large volumes of Russian oil. Fact number 2. Brazil also receives the maximum tariff, and in this case, the move coincides with ongoing political turmoil around former President Jair Bolsonaro. Washington's statement called it out explicitly, citing concerns over political persecution tied to electoral issues. Fact number 3. Canada's tariffs were increased due to what U.S. officials called insufficient enforcement against drug traffickers and fugitives. Ottawa's penalty includes both higher base tariffs and a 40% transshipment fee. So what are we seeing here? Not just trade adjustments, but targeted leverage. Tariffs used as tools to influence behavior well beyond commerce. This is economic statecraft in action. Now let's talk about sectors. This isn't just about geography, it's about control over critical industries. Trump's executive order singles out 4 key areas. Metals. All non-exempt partners now face a 50% tariff on steel, aluminum, and copper. Autos, car imports, and parts, 25%. Semiconductors. A staggering 100% tariff is coming, according to Trump's latest remarks. Pharmaceuticals. New starter tariffs will kick in soon, eventually rising to as high as 250% over time. But there's a notable exception buried in the policy. If your company builds production capacity inside the US, even if it's not online yet, these tariffs may not apply. That's not just protectionism. It's an open invitation. The message is clear. Make it in America or pay the price. So how are markets reacting? Surprisingly, Wall Street didn't panic. On August 6th, just one day before the tariffs took effect, all 3 major indexes closed in the green. Nasdaq surged 1.2%, the S&P 500 climbed 0.73%, and the Dow ticked up slightly. Some analysts even framed the move as a stabilizing force. David Miller, chief investment officer at Catalyst Funds, called the tariff path net positive, citing greater certainty, stronger trade deal enforcement, and trillions in investment commitments on U.S. soil. But not everyone is convinced. According to Yale Budget Lab, the U.S. now faces an effective average tariff rate of 18.3%, the highest since 1934. Bloomberg's projection puts that figure at 15.2%, still several times higher than last year's 2.3%. The economic impact? Yale estimates that the average US household will see costs rise by $2,400 per year. Inflation may tick up 1.8% as a result, so the benefits may take time to materialize, and the costs will be felt by consumers first. Now here's something that isn't making headlines, but could be even more important in the long run. While tariffs make global headlines, something quieter is happening behind the scenes: the rebuilding of America's rare earth supply chain.
General Motors has just signed a long-term deal with Novion Magnetics, the only U.S. producer of high-grade rare earth magnets used in electric vehicles and drones. The timing? Not a coincidence. China currently controls around 90% of the world's rare earth processing capacity, and in April, Beijing tightened export rules, putting Western manufacturers on edge. So the U.S. response has been swift and strategic. In Texas and California, American firms are now building new magnet plants. Apple has pledged $500 million to expand U.S. rare earth recycling capacity. The Pentagon just signed a 10-year off-take agreement, guaranteeing prices and injecting over $400 million into domestic producers. This isn't just about magnets, it's about autonomy in EVs, defense tech, and energy systems. So while the tariff headlines grab attention, the real transformation may be unfolding underground, in the rare earth mines and magnet factories that'll shape future wars, industries, and alliances.
So how does this actually move the real economy? 3 fast signals to watch. First, certificates of origin. Customs is tightening audits to stop origin washing through third countries. If you start seeing more seizures and retroactive duties, that's your tell that enforcement is scaling up, not just the headline rates. Second, CapEx announcements. Follow where automakers, chip firms, and pharma suppliers commit new plants. If we get a cluster of US Midwest and Sunbelt projects, and parallel expansions in Mexico's northern states and Canada's battery corridor, you're looking at a North American production arc taking shape. Third, logistics pricing. Watch spot rates for roll-on, roll-off autos, refrigerated pharma lanes, and specialty air freight for chips. Sustained premiums there mean firms are paying to reroute now rather than wait for deals later. Bottom line, if enforcement hardens, CapEx localizes, and freight reprices all at once, then this isn't a temporary tariff shock. It's the blueprint for a durable supply chain reset. The only open question is who adapts faster, policymakers or the multinationals they're trying to steer.
So what's the big picture here? We're watching a global trade reset in real time. Not just tariffs, but tools of influence, signals of intent, and strategic leverage. And it's not just about who pays more at customs. It's about where things are made, who controls the critical inputs, and how alliances are structured in a multipolar world. So the question becomes, are we heading toward a new era of protectionism? Or is this the opening chapter of something even more fundamental, a global supply chain realignment that permanently rewires the economic map? Only time and the next round of tariffs will tell. But one thing's certain, this isn't just a trade story. It's a geopolitical chess match, and we've just seen the board reset. If this analysis helped you understand the deeper game behind global finance, make sure to like and subscribe. Because in a world of noise, this is your intelligence signal.
That's all for today on China Decoded. Thanks for watching. Behind the slogans, beyond the surface. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed. See you in the next one.